high-risk markets, high-reward traffic, affiliate navigation in emerging jurisdictions.
So we're here today to talk about high-risk markets with high-reward traffic, and we have a couple of great affiliates on the panel today who I have had the opportunity to have a chat with prior to this, and I think they're going to drop a lot of nuggets of wisdom for us today. So what I'd like to do is just set the stage a little bit about high-risk markets. In your opinion, what makes a market high risk? And as affiliates, why is it still appealing for you to move into those markets?
Okay, so I start with introducing myself. I'm Maciej Novota. I'm from Casino Guru. I'm head of casino research. And I believe that what defines high-risk markets, it's uncertainty. All the markets where the regulatory uncertainty, political situation, or maybe some cultural problems are in stake, then these are the high-risk markets. And why the affiliates like these markets is because these markets usually have some high rewards.
Hi, I am Milan Mihaldinac. I'm the CEO of Casino Love. And what we do, we are working with a lot of iGaming clients, and we produce videos for them. So that's our background experience. And we can give a lot of definition to what an emerging market or high-risk market is. The definition that I will be using here is those markets where the regulation, which are not yet regulated, but there is like a clear plan to liberalize over the next coming years, or they are just very freshly regulated, and it's very likely that the current regulation will change in the coming years or so. And emerging in these terms doesn't necessarily mean that from an economical point of view, the country is like a third world country or an emerging country. It could be like a well-established European country as well, but from a gambling regulation perspective, it is emerging.
So we've defined these markets now. Maybe you could share with us some of the markets that you believe are the most exciting, which would actually fit into this definition.
We can talk about South Africa, LATAM, Brazil particularly. Now we are closely watching United Arab Emirates, how their framework is developing. So it's usually these markets. Southeast Asia also, but it's like more in the future. I believe that there would be some changes. So right now it's LATAM, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, and maybe some US states which are like slowly adopting to the regulatory framework.
Is it the same for you, Milan? Are all those the same markets that you're looking at as high risk and high reward?
Yeah, I think Mate captured that very well. I think also within the EU countries, there are certain countries which are planning to liberalize. For example, Finland is known to have a plan for 2027 to open up. So I would consider it that as well.
Oh, if I may, I completely forgot about New Zealand.
Interesting that you would throw New Zealand into that mix. That's great. Why would you say New Zealand would be a high-risk market?
Because of the local population there, the minorities, and they are very sensitive on that. It's a very developed society. And if something turns wrong, then there could be like swift regulatory change. So mostly because they're like the original local population, they are very tend to gamble, and they are very sensitive on that. And if the regulator see that something goes wrong, there is a high tendency that they will interact, and it could like destroy somebody's business if he start wrong campaign in that country.
Yeah, exactly. I think the definition of risk here is business risks, because there are so much uncertainty what can change. And if you have a business plan and you're trying to execute on it and something is changing, then of course you lost out.
So we're talking about regulatory changes and also having a business plan. If you are going into these high-risk markets, how do you prepare? And what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize looking at the regulatory set or the competitors, or do you look at the players first? Like, what is most important when you're entering into the market?
Well, to know the regulation well is a must. It's not possible to do this market without knowing that. Also, it's extremely important, maybe same as knowing the regulation, to know your audience. If somebody is coming to the market and believe that something what works on another market is working on that particular market, and specifically when I'm talking about Africa or LATAM, it's not like that. The people there are different. It's completely different audience. They expect something else, and maybe the last thing is knowing your competitors, but I believe it's not so important. If somebody new come to the market and they believe that he is doing something right and he has good model, he can be successful, but knowing the regulation and knowing the audience is a key to success.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and also working closely with regulators, which I know that you are doing, Mate, in certain markets, is extremely important if you want to be there early. I would also add that I think a long-term thinking would be beneficial when you are entering into these markets, because there are going to be changes, and initially, if I would enter a new market, I would think about for a couple of years ahead, and I would start with like brand building, reputation building first, not necessarily anything that's related to commercial activity, but you just want to really establish trust with the potential audience you have. And of course, it's also a good opportunity for you to conduct user research and these type of preparatory works.
If I may, I completely agree with that, because it's extremely important for the market where the saturation is low, or like new markets, that I understand that it's possible to make like good money in the beginning when there are no competition, but if these campaigns are too aggressive, then basically the regulators realize that something is wrong and they try to make a correction, and this correction, it costs you a business. So thinking in long term in this market is the key to have a strong position like later.
So we're thinking long term in order to have a strong position, and I think we talked a lot on our call about trust and building trust in these markets. So I know, Milan, that content and video content is very much in your wheelhouse. How do you utilize that content to build trust with those players as you're going into those markets?
Yeah, of course, it's not a sales pitch, but definitely I think when you are launching a new brand, which was not established in any shape or form in that market, then you probably want to put a face, you want to explain the mission, and you want to provide value to your audience. Of course, we specialize in videos. It's also true for written content and other content as well. But I would definitely go in with something where you educate, raise awareness, provide value, but also I think it would be an interesting approach to start with responsible gaming and defining all the important housekeeping things first.
So you're helping the player first, and that's what builds the trust.
Definitely.
I cannot agree more with what Milan says. Our website, Casino Guru, we are focused on educating the players.
Yes.
And we have also like strong responsible gambling feeling. So we're also solving the players' complaints. And all these aspects, they build the trust, what your brand needs. And when you have the player trust, then you can be successful.
Emerging markets come with a lot of sudden changes. So let's talk a little bit about how you balance those changes and move with them and still have aggressive growth for your businesses.
We don't have so aggressive approach.
Okay.
It's always on how long do you think you will like stay on that market. If you think in long term, then you cannot have very aggressive campaign. You need to, as we told before, build a trust. Show the people something what they know. like if it's a new market, then assuming that the players will like trust your brand when you show them something new, it's like selling fridges in Antarctica. The local people will not understand what you're giving them, the options what you have. So every newcomers should think about what the people want on that market and how to gain the players' trust, that you understand their needs, that you are one of them, that you want them sell something what they really want. And this is very important. So if somebody start very aggressive approach on the new market, it could work, really, it could work for even months, but then...
Yeah, I think the areas where you can be aggressive is try to be the first who gets the license for that given market, and also be one of the first who is in a position to release valuable content and reach that audience. But in order to reach them, you probably want to build out like a content library and have a content strategy and plan to do so. I think those are the preparation things where you can be aggressive, but other things you really have to just comply with the regulation.
So if regulation were to change, are you prepared already for those changes? Do you have content in the background that you've created beforehand in case things come up?
You really can't be prepared for that. If the regulation change is sudden, and as an example, we can talk about like Filipino market, where suddenly they decided to cancel all the offshore licenses, and they were even considering the ban on gambling. How you prepare for that? You can't.
No.
So yes, sure, you need to count on the like high-risk markets that anything could happen, and what exactly happened, you don't know.
Yeah, of course, you cannot really influence that. But I think if you build out a content library, just because there is a regulation change, the only thing that would change is the monetization aspect of that library or that content you hold. You are not able to promote anything, for example, on top of that content, but still if you have educational, informational content there, it's valuable from a player perspective, but from a business perspective for you, it might be not.
Okay.
You can switch the market. You can go somewhere else. All the content what you created, it could be used somewhere else.
But isn't localization important? So if you were to take that same content and reuse it in another market, I suppose that takes some effort as well.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely easier with written content, I would say, and with video, localizing something is more difficult because it's not just the script in itself, but you probably would like to have faces who are very familiar with the local audience, and not to mention the audio as well. So definitely it's more costly to do that type of rework. However, the script part is something you can carry over with little changes from market to market.
Right. So then, I mean, when we've been talking about content, print and video content, what are the channels which are most effective in emerging markets, or does it vary from market to market?
This is Milan's space, so please.
If we are talking about video channels, then I mean definitely in certain markets, certain channels are more commonly used, but besides regulation, these channels have their own platform policies as well, and some of the channels are more advanced in terms of like being up to date with the regulation. For example, if you're looking at YouTube, there is a very clear process. If you are an operator and you have a license, a local license, you can submit that license to YouTube. They are going to verify, and then in that case, you are allowed to have content within the gambling space. Meanwhile, in certain markets, this is not true, or on certain other platforms, it's not true. I think TikTok is not exactly that great on this area. It's way harder to work with them, but YouTube is very straightforward.
So is SEO still king in those emerging markets then, because it's easier to change and it's easier to put the content out in print? SEO? Is, we're having a problem with. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now?
Better? Okay. I was asking then, is SEO as a channel to drive traffic, is that the best option because you can change content over time very easily?
We are working with SEO. We are mostly working with SEO. For us, this is the way, but I cannot say if it's like the best on emerging markets. Like for us, it means we are going up slowly, but it's like very reliable, and we are thinking in long term. So this is the way for us. It's maybe not gonna work in Africa or some other countries. It all depends on the local market, but we choose this way, and in long term it gets lots of benefits.
To be honest, those are complementing each other, different content formats.
Okay, so when you're talking about the different content formats complementing each other, let's talk about Latin America, for example. What is the content format that you find that they actually grab onto the easiest? And I know Latin America is a very big, so each country would be very different, but is there anything special that you're doing in that market that helps you reach that audience?
Well, people prefer to use their cell phones. They're like more focused on videos, on influencers. This is like very typical for like young markets, that people rely more on like influencers, on videos, than on static websites or like old fashion affiliates. So if I would go to LATAM or to Africa, I would definitely like be sure that I'm 100% ready for mobile device. That if I use websites, videos, everything, the format fits for cell phones, and I would focus on young people and to video content, to go through influencers. That I believe is the way to be successful as a newcomer.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with the influencers. I think, of course, you shouldn't really rely purely on influencers, but I think initially to drive awareness of your brand and to your content library, those are very beneficial, and you can also learn a lot from local influencers about what type of content could work in that given market.
Okay, well, we've talked about how you prepare, what you do to localize, how you build trust. If you were to give the audience a piece of advice when going into a high-risk market, what would your piece of advice be?
Really be informed about the regulation. It could change very quickly, and you need to react fast. And like if you're not looking carefully about what is changing, then the action from the regulator might come immediately, but it could lead to complete blocking, losing the trust, and brand damage. So regulation is very important. And another thing is to looking on impact of your campaign, of what are you doing. And if you see that something is wrong, then react, because the regulator might not react so fast, but when they realize that something is wrong, the reaction could be really swift and could kill your business. You need to always be sure that there is some wrongdoings, and especially like for minorities, for like local communities, that everything is okay, that you are building the trust among the people, that everything is okay.
Completely agree, and my advice would be just think long term, and you also need to allocate a budget accordingly, that you have to keep producing valuable content and building up your brand. It's going to cost you substantial amount, but if you are willing to go through that long and hard work, then you are better off dominating that market, I think.
How do you look to operators to help you when you're working in these markets? Are there specific operators that you prefer to work with because they're more in tune with what you're doing in an emerging market?
It's very good to work with the operators which what the local people know. So if as an affiliate you came with something new to the people, they usually are not sure. So at least offer them some mix maybe or some brands which the people are familiar with. Because people not trust everybody in the beginning, and every new market is very specific, and there is like different audience market to market, and to like assume that what works in one country is working in another, you can fail badly. In some countries it is possible, but for example like having very good business in Europe and then come to Africa and hoping that the same model will work there, it's not like that. So you need to observe, you need to look, you need to give the people something what they trust, and then you can success.
Milan, anything to add on operators and who you look to work with?
I think it's a bit subjective in this regard, but I think those operators who are long established and they already have experience in entering other markets successfully would definitely be my preference as a partnership, especially if they are really in the long term and they are sharing the same values that I just discussed earlier. So definitely.
We are running out of time at this point, so just one last question. What do you think the most exciting market is right now that you could go into? Where are you going to get the most reward at this point in time?
Tough question. I would say Brazil, but the situation in so many markets, it's changing so rapidly that we are like working worldwide. So we need to be extremely aware of what is happening. So it's extremely hard for me to say one particular market. I'm keeping myself informed about everything what is happening, and it's extremely hard. But with really huge excitement, I'm looking what is happening in United Arab Emirates. That if the framework, if they set the framework and they allow foreigner operators to come on that market, it would be absolutely amazing market, absolutely amazing.
So Matej did offer before we got on stage, if anyone wants to go buy him a free drink at one of the stands and talk more about emerging markets, he has a lot of information, so you guys can grab him when he's out there. For you, Milan, what would be the most exciting market that's coming up or at this time?
It's really hard to say because it's not just about the market in itself, but then you have to find your own niche within that market, your target audience, and there are so many ways how you can cut a geo, let's say, that I wouldn't be able to tell. It depends what is your strong point as well.
Okay, go with your strengths. That's great. Well, thank you guys. We're out of time now, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.